ready to start. So after this long day, I welcome you at the latest stage of the event where we will have a panel with our guests. Then we will be talking on growing a project in the Dotsama ecosystem. So for now, I will give a brief word to Chris, who hasn't spoken as a speaker, but is attendee of the panel, and he will talk to us about himself, as his position is growth manager at Bifrost, so we will give him space to tell us a little bit about Bifrost and how he started at Bifrost and so on.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Nice to meet you. I'm Christian, and as Dan says, I am the growth manager at Bifrost. We at Bifrost actually, we are a stacking liquidity protocol. As you may know, we are live already from 1 year on Kusama ecosystem. We actually won one of the 5 like parachain auction on Kusama, and last week, I guess, we also won the last batch of parachain auction on Polkadot. So woohoo! Yeah, we are going to be live like in, I guess, a month. Why I'm here? I'm here because I'm, as I said, the growth manager of the team, and I'm gonna speak about the whole process of like kind of engaging the community in the ecosystem with our project and in the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem as well. Because one of the thing about Polkadot and Kusama, as Dan from Makala says, it's a kind of slow but steady protocol. It delivers a thing on time, but it takes a bit of time. So the community, especially in the crypto and blockchain world, is basically a community which is a bit impatient. So I think my role is kind of important, not because it's mine, but because I guess it's a kind of a bridge. Is the communication like bridge between the core team that for us in Bifrost is made by dev and actually the community. So for example, me at Bifrost, I manage a group of ambassadors and contributors, which basically gives support and help to all the users and investors that maybe struggle sometimes using our protocol or our DApp or some wallet. I was speaking before, like with our friends of Talisman, about their great job that they are doing to kind of like let the community grow. And yeah, this is it.
All right. Well, we can definitely agree on that. Building a project in the Web3 world or in the Dotsama ecosystem can be quite, let's say, flexible and quite fast, because the space generally is pretty like overwhelming in terms of users and new projects being built. So my question is, for opening, I'd like to ask you, what is the main flow of building a project in the Dotsama ecosystem, mainly in terms of like what tools are you using in your team to actually build and coordinate effectively in the team? Caroline?
So are you talking about the community?
Yes.
The community side. I mean, it's quite interesting because before I came here, I was catching up with our community managers, because I was like, right at the beginning, when I first started in Italy, we didn't have community managers. It was like 6 of us building, so I had to come up with like an ambassador program, a way for us to engage with people. And then now we have 2 amazing community managers that look after that side. And I think one of the key things for us, obviously the organization side, have information all in one place, communicating that clearly to the community, but also not just leave up to the community managers. Like the whole team is engaged with the community, or devs, or co-founders. Sometimes I'm there. And I think it's important for both ways, right? Because like I say, we're fully decentralized, so it's not about us, it's about everybody. We're just part of the community as well. So in terms of specific tools, at the moment, we're just using Notion to like where we keep the hub of all the information about the project. We're just revamping our ambassadors program because we realize in terms like you need to reward people somehow. and we couldn't figure out the best way to do it. So now we're just coming up with a better structure so people feel a little bit more engaged. But I think in general, in terms of like Polkadot, people, like for us, and I'm sure for the other projects as well, people understand the need. So if you want to build a project and come to Polkadot and you're addressing a specific problem, people are going to be engaged. Then you just need to make sure that you're there and that you communicate and you give space to them.
Of course, I truly understand that building the engagement in the community is pretty important, and that's why I can actually follow up to Dima, because I have had the chance personally to meet Dima's, or let's say Subsquid's community. So can you actually follow up a little bit on that? What tools or what approaches do you take in Subsquid regarding community?
I think that the best that worked for us is building personal sort of relations with community leaders. So we had an open Discord, and there is always sort of dynamic there that some people contribute more time than the others. And eventually we actually hired our community manager out of our Discord. And we also try to have close communication channels, basically like a private group on Telegram with people who are most active. And we also have NFT project that is a pretty big one, because this is kind of the prototype for a DAO, and because currently we don't have like a token and like it's a long run to it, but these NFTs will be embedded into the governance process, and they will basically work as a model for like a small scale DAO for the time being, and we have different ideas how to make people more engaged, basically let them manage not only like Discord chat, but also have a small budget, so then they can actually decide what kind of activities they want to sponsor. So yeah, there is like a lot of ideas, and I think we really need to enforce this agency sort of on the community members.
And there are many projects that are, for example, starting in the Dotsama ecosystem, and they are from their, let's say, community trying to transition into some form of DAO, because it's pretty important to give voice to the community. And since you are building the community, you have to hear what are the desires of your members in the community, and of course, based on their activity, they can, for example, decide on other things and maybe more, let's say, advanced topics. So I think that's very important. I have another question, is like, how would you say the community is in the Dotsama ecosystem, and is it your stepping stone in the growth? Because since you had the chance right now to start at Bifrost, Chris, and then what do you think about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Two adjectives which I will use to define the Dotsama community is, first of all, patient. As I said before, they are not that kind of like pump and dump community, just we are here for making easy money immediately or like we live. We are here, as she said before, because we as community understand the true value of the product we are delivering or we are receiving as a users or investor. So we want to be part of this process. So I can say also community is a bit technical on this kind of things. Some aspects, some protocol are very kind of technically complex for everyone to get it. So like stay up to the pace of like Polkadot and Kusama development is a kind of like for sure their merit. For sure, as you said, like community is one of the stepping stone. We at Bifrost, for example, tried to engage the community as much as we can. We have like, for example, a team of contributors. We actually have their specific role of engage the community every time they have like a specific need using our protocol. we are kind of active on Telegram and Discord, as Dimas was saying, is also a very like direct way to help the community. And we also like actually hear them a lot. For example, we had it's not an issue, luckily, but there was like an over contribution of DOT in our parachain slot auction. So actually, we have like more people that contributed than expected, and then the limit set by Polkadot itself. So we asked to the community, directly to them, to vote on our forum, what to do with this kind of like extra rewards that we are gonna give like to people that actually believed in us. And I think that the whole process, it's kind of like, it's a small revolution, no? Compared with like those kind of company that are just central based. And so, yep.
Sure, I mean, giving back to the community is definitely pretty important, as every project has its funding and a treasury. So giving back to people who are actually contributing to the project is the key part of every project. So following up on this question, as Caroline was speaking that recently two community managers were hired, I would like to ask, what is the process behind hiring a community manager? Like, how do you do it?
I mean, when we hired our first community manager, Remy, if you're listening, hi Remy. He's such a lovely person. And with him was more of a traditional sense, like we put an ad out and he applied. He was part of a Discord, but it wasn't like, oh, who is the most active person here, and let's hire them. We needed someone with a quite good background of managing big communities, and they had a more of like a structured way of thinking. So yeah, he just ended up applying, and he came on board and helped us get everything going. And then we had Sue, our other community manager, and she looks more after our Chinese community. And she was actually extremely active on the community already. So straight away, when we knew we needed that position, we were like, okay, Sue, come on board. And we are much bigger by then as well. So I think it's a mixture. Like if you want, like if you're just starting out and you need a bit more structure, then you need to like maybe someone from your community, but maybe you would need to hire someone from outside that just has the background. And then after that, building on top of that, then why not? Like the people, the ambassadors of our community, they might be interested in our job, and it would just make sense to get them on board.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, today, like, let's say, community management and also time management and management inside the team is pretty important to actually make things done. So I have one coordination question on Dima and basically the internal team of Subsquid, because I know that you have quite a couple community managers, you have also plenty of ambassadors in your team. I would like to know how do you actually manage to coordinate with so many people inside the team?
We have only single community manager in-house, and yeah, we have like a few ambassadors, and we have a system based on Discord experience. So we actually devised like a small tool for it. So this tooling allows us to basically have a roster of the applications for the ambassador program. So, and actually it's sort of an ongoing process, and yeah, I think having this structure is having things structured is a very important point by Carolyn, and this is actually, I think the key is not only we have this structure, but also the community also kind of understands these rules. So it's not like you do something out of blue, but everyone understands how the thing works, and then everyone is kind of happy because it's sort of fair.
Definitely. Well, structural decisions and all, like making basically like a playbook in the team is pretty important because you save time. You don't have to explain everything again and again. So I would like to actually roll out to a brand new question, which is I would like to hear from each of you one piece of practical advice you would give to someone starting out in the Dotsama ecosystem? Either it can be on the development side of things or community side of things. Depends on you what you choose. Chris, please.
Yeah, I can say about the community side, and it's actually what I did. The piece of advice I can give is like to study. That seems pretty obvious, but it's not. Because sometimes it happens to me in the past to face some like community manager of other projects which has no clue about like what they're doing. So when I approached the Polkadot ecosystem, first as investor and then as a growth manager for Bifrost, I just studied a lot, understand how it works, like even some technical things that maybe I'm not able to explain to people right now. I would certainly like ask Lurpis, that is our core developer. But yeah, definitely study and like try to imagine yourself on the other side of the barrier, because most of my job is like to have this kind of interview and conversation with other ambassador, contributors, normal people and investor who is actually struggling with the protocol or the ecosystem in general. So be kind and be kind of patient with like other people, because I think that the potential of the entire ecosystem, it's huge. The fact that we are here, all of us, in one of the first, I guess, offline events after 2 years of like disclosure and stuff, it means something. Just, I don't know, let's say keep up with the good work, and let's see where it goes.
Caroline?
Sure. So I think I'll go like my advice be a bit more traditional, in a sense that for me it's all about like if you're starting out now and you got a project going on, you want to get something going. It doesn't matter if it's Dotsama or somewhere else. Like first thing is team. Like it's really important to invest time on your team, invest on company culture, because your community is going to be a reflection of that. So like if you don't have that in the first place, then nothing else really comes together. So, and besides of that, you know, I'm an ops person, so I love processes. I love like, you know, step-by-step type of thing, and that's super important to keep the team sync. And then again, if you get the right processes in place internally, then you can sort of take that to your community as well. It makes everything just easier to manage.
Dima?
Yeah, these are all great points. I can only add that I think Polkadot is really amazing when it comes to programs like Substrate Builders and Web3 Foundation grants, which allows anyone to very easily get this, what is normally would be like a first angel check. And this is how we actually jump-started Subsquid, which back then was called even Hydrate. It was just an internal project, and like we got accepted into Substrate Builders, and we got a lot of help, especially through connections, intros, like any like kind of technical advice. So I think in Polkadot is one of the best ecosystems where you can just have an idea and very easily validate it and like get your first money to build the prototype. So yeah, my advice is just like apply for grants.
Yeah, definitely. I believe the ecosystem is very rich in terms of treasuries and all the possibilities to actually receive a grant. The only thing needed is actually to grind hard and have the needed knowledge to actually receive the grant. So basically following up on what Chris said before is I would actually like to note that people in the community, as we said before, are the key part of the community, because they are, after all, the ones who represent you at, for example, some events, or it is also on the internet. So I would actually like to ask you, this will go to Caroline for now, and what has helped you to get where you are with your team, and what advice would you have to others who want to start in a similar direction?
So, so your question is to do with it, like how we grew the team,
Yeah,
or more
like
to do with the
what
community?
are the theme in like directions and how we actually manage to move forward in the Dotsama?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said before, the thing that we got quite lucky also, I think, like myself, the co-founders and the first team members we had to start with, we all had this same mentality of, you know, there's so many amazing people out there that you can hire, but it has to be above that. Like, we had to understand each other really well, because then when we went out to hire more people, you can find out the right personalities. And it doesn't mean you can't have diversity in there, like, oh, everyone has to be like us. Rather the opposite, right? You want to have a good mixture so you can fill out the gaps. And then on top of that, independently of like how you go about hiring or anything like that, and this applies to community too, is transparency. Like, you have to communicate things clearly, especially nowadays, everyone is remote, communities from all over the world. You have to make sure communication is going on the right channels, whether that is internally or externally, and just being open and honest, right? Because as soon as you start to do anything like, oh, we can't say something like that, in this ecosystem, it just doesn't work. Like, you have to be upfront and say what's going on, basically.
Definitely, being open to your community as much as possible is pretty key. And following up on what you said regarding connecting like internally with your team, I would like to actually hear from each one of you on how you actually manage to connect inside the team. Do you, for example, do any like retreats, or do you, for example, I don't know, make a couple calls together, or do you, for example, go to city for beers? How do you approach this?
Well, for me, it's kind of difficult because I'm based in Italy and most of the team is based in Shanghai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. So it's like virtual beer. But yeah, actually, we are constant in contact all each other. We have our, of course, channels that we use for work, for example, Linear or Slack. And we are just like confronting each other on every end, let's say. And to add something, actually Caroline said about like how to just like do the right steps, like in this community, let's say, growth altogether. I think that something that is really important in this ecosystem, more than the others maybe, is that you need to be passionate. Because it happens like both on dev side, on community side, that you can make mistake. We are all human, we can all make mistake. But like, just, you don't have to give up if you just like are sure that you are doing something that is right and has some value for the community. Just keep going. As she said, like, be super transparent, because if you, for example, make a mistake, just let them know, the community, I mean, and you can sort it out all together. And you have to start from the idea that not everyone will be always happy with your like action. Just the fact that you are doing something, someone will have something to say against it. But you have to be like on the right side, like with yourself and with the like common sense and the community. And I think these are like other important things, like when it comes to community and developing a project.
All right, Dima?
Yeah, I mean, this is like a very important thing to get together. And we are a fully distributed team, and actually it's really hard to get everyone in a single place because they have families, they have kids, they have some like visa issues sometimes, but at least partially we were able to have a hub in Turkey for 2 months. That was like really incredible experience. We rented a Airbnb villa, and I would say that productivity actually were boosted probably like 2x at least. So and the second thing is this kind of offline events actually are really good, because not only you just have a possibility to talk to others in the ecosystem, but also you can actually meet your own teammates. So this is what happened in Amsterdam. So at Amsterdam, I actually met for the first time our dev advocate Massimo. That was like very pleasant. So,
All right.
Hello, I think that's my favorite question. I think I'm super passionate about like building culture within a company, within a startup, within a project. But I think there's a fine line, like when we talk culture, it can become quite cultish, like if you know what I mean? Like if you force things on people. So I think to build a good connection with the team, there's a variety of things that need to happen. First, like meeting in person, super important. Once a year, we get together, and then throughout the year, we get to go to conferences. So, like I'm here today. Some people will be in Berlin, in a couple of weeks. Some people are in Amsterdam, and then we try to make sure that we balance this out. So people that didn't get to go and feel like going, they can go. So we can all meet each other at some point and don't have to wait like the whole year. But besides of that, like, because our team is literally all over the world. There are things that we need to have in place, different touch points to make sure like that people are happy and everyone has everything that they need, that they feel like they are part of something. Because initially when we start to grow quite a lot, one of the team members mentioned something. I was trying to get some feedback, and he's like, look, I love working here, but sometimes feels like I'm a freelancer. Like it doesn't feel like I'm part of a team. And I think like it makes sense, when it's remote, it's really hard to get there, right? So we put a few things in place now that really helps. So one thing that we have knowledge sharing sessions. So we get together once a month, and then someone usually presents something that they have been researching, or if no one wants to present, we just get together, pick a topic and talk about it. Like, what do you know about it? Like, what's going on? Another thing that we do, we have feedback sessions once a month, like send anonymous forms, people put whatever they want there, but then we actually get together in a video call and then we discuss specific points. Then we have socials as well, and all this stuff is voluntary, and like people participate if they want, but so far everyone attends, like everyone wants to take part, and I feel like the dynamics of the team have changed a lot. And I think I can't emphasize enough, like one-to-ones are really important for everyone. Like get to know who you work with. And then it makes it just makes so much nicer for everyone else.
Definitely. We can see that Web3 has a sort of, let's say, anonymous culture. I mean, you can start to work with somebody who you don't even know, or maybe on Discord channel or in some chat they might seem a little bit rude, and when you meet them in person they are super friendly, and like you get to actually connect with them, which is very important for like internal team to work, and of course from the internal team everything else happens. So it's pretty key to get to know each other well, understand each other, and also understand each other's position and what their needs, their pain points, and so on.
Can I add something just practical, but I don't think that's quite good on the community side as well. Something we're developing right now is just to have some Discord guidelines in terms of communication. Because like you say, like when you have people all over the world, people just communicate differently when like they're typing a message. And then sometimes it can get pretty confusing. So like just having things, for example, if you want to action something, or if it's like important information, you just add something in front. So for your attention, it's something that you have to action. For your information, it's just something that you have to read. And that just helps a lot as well.
Definitely. I mean, also people from different continents, for example, people from America or from, let's say, Chinese continent or Australia, they have all a little bit different style of communication and also a little bit different type of, let's say, chatting. So it can be sometimes a little bit deceiving and hard to actually read through what they actually truly mean. So definitely meeting and knowing your internal members and community is pretty important. I have a little bit spicy question coming up, since Dima is a co-founder of, let's say, Subsquid. Do you remember a specific experience of where you wished that Subsquid had done something differently in the past? If you were to do it over, would you change it?
Oh yeah, I mean there are lots of things. So first of all, our first hires were disaster. So I mean, and the lesson learned is that I should have hired an HR agency from the very beginning, because I started to go to the hiring boards myself, and I hired wrong people that hopefully well, we fired them like just 1 month afterwards. So yeah, that was like a pretty tough decision. So there is like lots of like technical and product decisions that we make on the road, and we actually want to do it in a different way. But I mean, that's kind of normal. So yeah, I think these were like the most things that come to my mind that basically work on the team from the very beginning. Yeah, that's pretty much what Caroline said. Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, if I can add something, since as I said, Bifrost is like just about staking liquidity derivatives, it's just like a bit technically complex for people and for investor. I have to say, like in the early stages of our product, people didn't really get it. So maybe something we could improve, and we are improving now, is to push on the educational side of it. So we are actually using Medium that is a bit more immediate than, for example, GitHub. And like we have actually a team of, part of the team of the ambassador are also translator. So because you can always read something in English, but not everywhere English is such a big thing. So for them, it's like easier to read it in their like own language. And also, just to reconnect with something Caroline said before, we are also actually hosting a community call in a more structured way. So we have this community call once a month, actually on Discord. Right now it's on Discord. We are also exploring new ways to do it in order to just grow the audience and like maybe allow people from other parachains to participate, who knows. But it's a better way of like communication. As you said before, it's kind of tricky to always come to a chat message. So this kind of community call, the only thing is a bit tricky about is the time zones, because for example, some of our ambassador and investor are in America, others are in Asia, and it's like 12 hours of difference. So for some of them, the last community call was at 5 a.m. in the morning, but they were there. Thank you. I'm very passionate about it, I have to say. So yeah, I mean, it's, I think, as I said before, there is like always something better we can do, and we all are aware about it. But yeah.
Caroline?
I mean, just wanted to add on the thing about hiring process, just like how important that is. I think it's so worth, like if you're gonna start hiring, if you're gonna start hiring now, for example, and you have no process in place, stop. Like, get the process in place first, like how many interviews you're gonna have, who's gonna participate in the interviews, have a set of questions that you want to ask as well. You can, free flow for a little bit, like, it's terrible, those interviews that you sit there and you feel like you're a robot, but you need to have a set of questions so you can compare candidates as well. And another thing that helps us a lot is that once you get this process in place and everyone knows, brief your team. Even if people are not going to interview, brief everyone. This is our hiring process. This is how it works. Communicate to the candidates as well. And once you've done that, you get a really good thing, because then you can get different people from the company to actually participate in the process. And that helps us so massively, because sometimes, I might think someone might suit the team, but then a few other people interview and they pick up on things that I wouldn't, because like I say, everyone's different, and you need to find the right spot, the right personality, the right skills and things like that. It really helps when you can get more people involved in the process.
Yeah, definitely. Following up on what Chris said regarding, for example, translations to other languages and actually communicating the education through the community. one of our, let's say, basically first things we did at Curadot was actually translate the interface to other languages, because it was pretty important to actually be able to onboard everyone who actually wants to use the protocol. And as well, on education side of things, I would actually like to ask you a question on what's the best resource to dive into your project? Like, yeah.
What's the best result? What do you mean?
Like, what if, for example, a newcomer would come to the, let's say, ecosystem and would like to find out the most about your project? What's the best resource where they can get the most information?
About our project?
Yes.
I mean, there's a few points once they join the community. I think the good thing, like, probably we all do this at this point, but on Discord, just have like the welcome channel where you just pinning everything there. So we have, because it depends what type of information do you want, right? So like, oh, I want to find out how to be ambassador. Then you go to our Notion. I want to find out more about the technical requirements. Then that's, you know, that's a separate doc. But we try to do in a way that we link things together too. So you can go from one place to another. But in terms of where you go first, Discord first, and then you can use different types of things. I don't know, put things on GitHub, or you put things on Notion, whatever tools you think is more suitable for your team.
Yeah, well, definitely touching in Discord, I would say, is pretty key, because for me, the first stepping stone in actually finding out about the project is the project's Discord, because you can see right away how the community reacts to your, for example, first arrival, how you are like engaging with others, and what are the community activities, because after all, it's all about like engaging with others. It's not like just about finding out about when token or something like that. It's for the people, at least usually, it's more about connecting with other people in the ecosystem.
I just want to add as well, just to have like, because you're right, like it depends a lot. I think a lot of people go through Discord, but some people might go on Twitter. Some people might come to your talk today, and you know they want to find out. So that, well, I don't remember the name, a link tree or something, where you put all the different links for that. So for example, on Twitter we will have that. On Discord we actually have individual links for things. So yeah, I think it's important to understand. With time that helps too, because I think it depends on the community. They might prefer different things, but once you get that, you can use the right tools and put in the right place.
Yeah, and actually part, I guess I can talk also for them, part of our job is like just to be sure that all of these channels are always up to date and works like together. Because for example, for us, like Twitter is a very good communication channel, because everything that happens, like for example, there is a release of a new product or the protocol or whatever, we just like create posts on Twitter that can be redirect on, like for example, GitHub, Medium. Our last community call, we just sponsor it on Twitter to let people go on Discord. So it's just like, it's not just one channel, it's an ecosystem of channel inside the ecosystem of Polkadot to kind of like maximize the experience for the audience, because you never know the next user which kind of platform is gonna use to like get in touch with you. So you need to be super sure that everything, every platform that like works for your protocol actually also works for the user and reach him or her as soon as possible as they need it.
All right, definitely having an order in your, for example, Discord documentation, Medium articles is pretty important, as people are like used to. For example, every week there is a article coming up. They are used to that. Every week there will be article published, or let's say a community call. So making order in what you do in your team is pretty nice. This is a follow-up on the question we had before, because before I was asking what was the, like, let's say, what would you change, or what was the, like, the least ideal thing you were, like, encountered in your team, and now the question is a little bit different. By way of comparison, like, do you remember something you have done, or something you wish everyone was doing in the ecosystem?
that for me?
Yeah.
Can you just say that again? So something good or?
Yeah. So basically, explaining that is as what was the interlay's path to actually what was the best single thing done in interlay that actually led to this success.
Okay. I think I'm gonna have to give a similar answer that I given before. The best thing is that the amount of time that we invest to get the best team, like that just made our life so much easier. So we put again a lot of time into the processes, into hiring, build the right culture, have the right things in place, and then getting the right people. Like there's many other amazing things that happen, but I think that's just is essential.
Right.
Yeah, and also like to follow the same idea. Something I really appreciate of like the work that is done from Bifrost even before my arrival was like the choice of a certain way to communicate with the community. If you dive in our Twitter, for example, you won't find any like, you know, super catchy clickbait title just to, I don't know, let you visit our Medium article or whatever. And I think that community, it's something that they get it like immediately from a project, especially like in the Dotsama ecosystem that is very serious, very like developing center kind of ecosystem. The way of communicating with them, I think my team, I mean, they cannot do it better. Like very precise, strict, super serious, let's say. Of course, if you go on our Telegram chat, there will be some like, I don't know, plane flying around or like, yeah, shuttle. But yeah, basically as she say, like exactly as you choose, as you spend time to choose a right team to develop a project and present it to everyone, it's important also the way you are doing this, like the way you are like, because after all you are just like facing everyone in the world, so it's important, is your like visit card, let's say.
Communicating all these stuff correctly to the community and to the users is pretty important. And as we are all in one ecosystem and we are growing basically all together in a fashion, what are the common misconceptions in the Dotsama ecosystem that people have? Like, how can we combat those misconceptions and communicate, for example, more effectively, Dima?
I think the most common misconception is that Polkadot is sort of has no users and it has very bad UX, which probably was true like a year ago maybe, but there are like lots of really good projects. For example, like Talisman guys doing really stellar job of like building a human usable wallet. So I think this is, to me, the most common misconception, that you cannot actually use Polkadot. That was true probably like a year ago, but now I think it's getting much, much better.
Correct.
I think for me, probably the biggest misconception is the fact that people think you have to be very technical to like join the communities or use a protocol. Of course, there's a really technical side of the community, which is also amazing, but you don't have to be technical. Like, and anyone can come join. And I think the best finding that I had is how welcoming people is. Like, people want to educate, people want to share information, but I think sometimes from the outside, maybe people don't feel like that.
Chris?
Yeah, I think like reconnecting myself with what Dima said, one of the misconceptions about Polkadot is that maybe, okay, it doesn't have like that much of users, but it's just like there is nothing really useful for me as a user to join it. And this was a misconception because, of course, like the entire process of like onboarding the parachains first on Kusama, the Canary chain, then on Polkadot. It took a while, so it's not that kind of project, as I said at the beginning of this talk, that it goes like 100 per immediately and attract a lot of users. So it's not like, not everyone is talking about Polkadot, but we are still here, we are still building, and yeah, when the time will come, because I'm sure it will come, it will, the wait will be rewarded for sure. And this is part of our job, actually, like let the people know that actually there are protocols that are running on Polkadot that actually you can use it and you can earn from it or just, yeah.
One thing I could definitely see as a pattern in the Dotsama ecosystem as it attracts builders from other ecosystems, and also it attracts very smart people who are actually seeing a potential in something that probably hasn't rised fully yet, because as we are now in the building stage and the whole Dotsama ecosystem is growing, what is the biggest challenge in the Dotsama ecosystem at the moment? Caroline?
Maybe I can follow up for what I said before, like you don't have to be technical, but I still think there's a huge gap on education, like making sure things that are easy to understand, comparing things that we're doing to the real world, and so on. I think just every single project, like a lot of the focus needs to start to switch into that, because if we're gonna want to more users, we're gonna have to change the language a little bit and just broaden up.
Dima?
Yeah, so there are multiple challenges. So I think if someone is building a parachain, it's a very long time to market before you actually get liquid token. So it's a long road and it's not super capital efficient. Thankfully, we now have platforms like Aster, Moonbeam, Akala, where you can actually have a smart contract platform and go for it. But then you would have to navigate the space of how you can actually leverage the killer features of the Polkadot ecosystem. And again, likely, there are actually tools, so you can still use XEM, but it's, I think, still kind of a work in progress thing, and there's a lot of hiccups on the way, because the end kind of product is not really under your full control. So in Ethereum, I think it's more uniform because everything lives on a single chain. While in Polkadot, you actually have to figure out what exactly I can actually use there and build. So every chain is different. So you have to basically think how exactly I can come up with something unique that is not just a copy-paste from, say, Ethereum again.
Yeah, and definitely I think one of the biggest challenge right now for the ecosystem is the, let's call it, mass adoption. Because it could be the best project in the world, the smartest one, but if no one uses it, it kind of loses a bit of its value. So it doesn't need to go viral and everyone needs to talk about it. It's something that it will arrive with the time. As we can see, we spend the entire day looking at an amazing presentation of great projects, and it's just the top of the iceberg. There are a lot of projects that are actually working on it because they just are not onboarded on Parachain, neither on Kusama or Polkadot. But the biggest challenge, I guess, is just be sure that the people are aware of what's going on and they can join it. And as soon as they join it, I don't think they will leave it. I mean, I did it and I'm not leaving. So I guess it works for almost everyone else.
Can I just add something? Because I was just thinking in this education thing that I've mentioned, because it is a huge challenge, but also I think it's a huge opportunity. Because if you think, if you're talking about DeFi protocols and you think about traditional finance, the biggest change here with traditional finance, no one talks about educating other people, right? You don't, it's like quite hard to join just a Discord, like it doesn't have the roots, it's a little bit more on the background. So unless, I mean, maybe you study at university or learn from school, or maybe your parents taught you, you don't even know like how to buy shares and stuff. And I think with DeFi, what's changing a lot is that young people are starting to get interested like on this stuff. It's such an amazing opportunity to educate people from that age. Then they will be the ones, you know, using the tools at the end of the day and sort of changing the whole financial system.
Oh, of course, how is the Web3 world very fast and very, let's say, upgrading every day. It's definitely a different approach that we can see, for example, against Web2 world, where the things are a little bit more static. Like it's hard to change something day to day at the university because they have to learn one thing to another 1,000 or 1 million people. And at Web3 world, you actually only change your documentation and you just teach people what is your update and why it should affect you. And it's like much more fluent, and the people are much more flexible in learning new things. And also following up on what Dima said with the ecosystem and development part of things. Like if you take, for example, Ethereum or other chains that are like having, for example, their time now, Polkadot is technically and fundamentally completely different than those other chains, and what they are actually trying to do right now at Polkadot is, for example, building for a long time now. So we are waiting for the moment, as of course agreeing with Chris on the mass adoption and of course seeing actual things being delivered and done on the Dotsama ecosystem. My question is right now, what is your number one growth priority in your team or in your project? What is your main focus? If you would look at your team as a base team, for example, Bifrost, Subsquid or Interlay, what's your number one priority in growth? Is it development? Is it community reach? Or is it marketing? Or is it something else?
I go first. Okay. I think this, of course, you have sort of long-term goals, but the way that this whole ecosystem works, you have to be able to adapt quite fast. So for us right now, we're really focusing on product, so getting it right, launching on Polkadot. But of course, at the same time, you have to look after, I think it goes hand by hand, right? You have to look after your community. But with the bear market and everything, I also think it's a great opportunity to get your voice heard, because I think when things are pumping, there's so much energy happening. So I think now is a great time, like, yeah, focus on product, but also focus in getting stuff out, because it's a little bit more quiet.
Yeah, because of course, this moment of the market, I guess, is bad for everyone in this room, but for actually developing a good product and delivering in time is the best moment, because you have no the outside pressure from like investors and people, like everything is pumping. Where is like this product that you say like it will be delivered like next week? What's the point? So to answer your question, our main goal is like try to cooperate with both sides, because we actually, like, for the last years and a half, 2 years, we focused a lot on delivering products in time and developing those products. And I have to say that like the community built itself around a good product, because you can push a lot on, for example, community engaging with 1,000 channels, but if the product doesn't work or is not satisfying for people, it's simply useless. On the other hand, if you just push on development, so you hire the best developers and like work 24/7 on the product, but like never let anyone knows that you are doing such a great product, it simply doesn't take off. So it's for us, it's a matter of balance those two things in order to arrive prepared when the time will come, definitely.
Dima?
Yeah, so for Subsquid, the mission is pretty straightforward. It's simple. Is to make on-chain data accessible, which actually is a multifaceted goal when you start to unpack it. So basically, you want to make sure that the on-chain data, which is usually just a black box, and users and oftentimes developers just don't really care or don't really understand how things are kept in there. So our mission is to basically bring this down into human readable and machine readable form. So actually it becomes very transparent and clear. And yeah, all our efforts are really targeted along these lines. So we try to build the best tooling in the ecosystem. So it's not only like around like indexing itself, but also the tooling that allows you to better understand how the data is stored on chain. For example, by generating interfaces and like types for once you're a developer, and if you're a user who is not very technical, we have we want to develop the direction where you can actually peek into this data using some data science tools. So for example, you can have a dump in the human readable format, and then you can explore this data and like build some hands-on dashboards or like some Python notebooks. And we also already have some good community-driven things, like for example in Interlay hackathon. There was like a really nice submission. So yeah, basically everything revolves around our mission here.
I would actually like to thank all the participants of this panel and the audience here for listening to us for this 1 hour. This panel was definitely pretty exciting as I learned a lot of stuff from each participant and their project. So before we finish, I believe some of the community managers and members and community itself might be watching the panel later, and I would actually like to give a space at the end for each of the participants to deliver a message to your community or your team. So Chris, you can start.
Oh. No, there is not like not really a message, if not like I want to repeat myself as I said before. In crypto and blockchain world, if we are here, we are already like early adopters, as it like very like well known to say, and it becomes even more true when it comes to Polkadot and Kusama. So just like don't worry if like the mass adoption I was talking about before is not there yet, but like just keep up with the good work. For the others team, like today I assisted amazing like speeches. There is a lot of things that are awaiting us, and yeah, for the community, just like give us the time and the trustness that they gave us till now, because a lot of very interesting things are going to happen. And like from the passion that I see today from all these developers and like managers, which I like speak before, also like during the aperitif time. I mean, I can feel the vibe, like, and the volunteer of building something that is like concrete. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Super happy.
Caroline?
Wow. Okay. So I think, yeah, feel a lot of responsibility right now. I think the message that I would give to the community is that the way that I see it, there's no difference between being inside the company, the community. We are one thing. Like, we are nothing without our community. And I think in general, like being part of Dotsama and part of Interlay, I just think we all, not just Interlay, but all the other projects, we are building something that is so much bigger than we think. And everyone that is taking part of this, is a little piece of history. But yeah, love you, community. That's it.
Dima?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like back in 2017, I came to the space for money, but actually stayed for the tech. So that was probably the first advice, is that actually once the beer market kicks in, just don't get discouraged. But what is really like fascinating is that like you can learn a lot, and if you start sharing this information, it gives you huge moat within the community and the space. And this is what worked pretty well for myself. I just like started learning about the space and started publishing stuff on Medium. Actually, like, not that much, just like a few articles, and already was enough to get into like a very vibrant community of people with like a lot more experience, and had a lot more knowledge from traditional finance back then. And it was like a very first batch of Misari that is like a behemoth right now. And so this, I think, pretty much works even today. So if you just spend enough time learning and then you start sharing this information in an accessible way, that pretty much catapults you into like whatever position you actually like. I think we're still in this stage where it is very easy to build a career in Web3.
Thank you everyone for your entries. It was very nice to hear from you. Now there will be time for dinner, drinks, and after party. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.